Hi y'all, Sat Sri Akal. This is Taq from BIPOC Executive Search getting at you today for the Wellness and Work podcast, a podcast where I share stories and tips to keep you healthy, happy, and motivated for your day job. Today's topic is how to sync your work calendar to your menstrual cycle. So one thing that you all might know about me or might not know about me is, in addition to my full-time job at BIPOC Executive Search, I am the CEO of a small business called I'm With Periods. That's the letter I, the letter M with periods, that aims to spread the worldwide love of, you guessed it, periods and menstrual cycles. And I started I'm With Periods in 2017 after my own journey of coming off the birth control pill because of the impact it was having on my mental health. And I started tracking my cycle. So my full menstrual cycle from one period to the next. And up until this point, I had gone through public education in Canada, in BC on the West Coast. I, had gotten the sex ed talk in school. I had done an entire biology degree on human developmental biology, and never, y'all, had I heard the words cervical fluid or tracking your cycle uttered at all. And I was somebody, highly educated, was in grad school, and I was just so shocked that nobody had taught me these things about my body before. And I took it upon myself just to start documenting my own learning journey on Instagram. And soon it all flourished into a small business. So in 2020, we actually published a book with Simon & Schuster called Self-Care Down There. And I've been, spreading the word ever since. So I think it's really, really important for folks who menstruate to really be tuned into our cycles, as I mentioned, from one period to the next, so the full menstrual cycle, because it can just make our lives so much better, so much easier. For example, I mentioned this in an earlier podcast, but I'm pretty introverted. I like to spend time by myself or with my partner. I'm not a big, going out person. I love to go to sleep early. But I had moved from one city to another during the pandemic. And because of, the stay-at-home orders and public health measures, I didn't really know too many people in the city. So I thought what I would do is start a dinner club for women of color to come together and, talk about our cycles, talk about abundance, and just have, a positive space where we get to celebrate ourselves, as opposed to, focusing on the impact that racism has had on our lives, which is important. But sometimes you just want to have fun and talk about other things. So I started a dinner club called Moon Babes in Halifax, and I actually timed it around when I ovulate, because that's when I'm feeling the more social. I actually want to go out and be among people and socialize. So that's one way that I've been incorporating it. And it's pretty funny because my partner will actually turn down social invites when I'm on my period, for instance, or when I'm in PMS, because he knows that I just don't want to socialize during those times. So that's on the personal front. And I'll jump into how we can sync our work calendars to our menstrual cycle in order to, not only boost productivity, which is important, but also keep ourselves healthy and well and stay motivated so that we're not overburdening ourselves or committing to things during certain times of our cycle where it doesn't necessarily make sense to do so. So I'll go through 3 different ways to do this. And the first piece is actually just learning about the full cycle and what the different seasons are. So I like to refer to the 4 seasons of the menstrual cycle. So just like the earth, we have 4 seasons within our own bodies: winter, spring, summer, and autumn. And winter corresponds with our period. So in the borders of Canada where I live, winter is, very cold. It's very dark. It's a time of turning inward, of getting cozy, of eating warm foods. Similarly, on our period, we can do the same. So really taking that time to rest, not making too many plans, taking that time to recover. So in our work schedule, I'll go into that in terms of how we might schedule tasks accordingly in a minute. But moving on to the next season is spring. So we think about, flowers blooming, the birds are chirping, people are out and about, and in our bodies with menstrual spring, that corresponds with pre-ovulation. So just before ovulation, when our body is ready to release that egg, we can experience, larger bursts of energy. It's when our estrogen levels are really high, and, we might feel really good about our bodies as well. So that is a really exciting, positive season. And then we go into ovulation, which corresponds with menstrual summer. Ovulation is a short season. It takes about 24 to 48 hours for our bodies to ovulate. And, it's a time of really big ideas, of, shining bright and being our best selves. And then we go into PMS, which can sometimes be one of the harder seasons for people to get through. And it corresponds with menstrual autumn. So again, here on Mi'kmaq Treaty Territory where I live, we have a lot of trees that lose their leaves in the fall. So we can imagine, the leaves turning brown, they're a little bit crinkly, a little bit irritated. Things are getting ready to be released and composted. Similarly, in our bodies, PMS is the time when our body is, literally concentrating traumas, limiting beliefs, toxins that are ready to be released from our body into that uterine lining that will soon be shed into our period. And then we go back into winter when our bodies actually release that blood and, we rinse and repeat. So those are the 4 seasons of the menstrual cycles. And we can actually track that cycle from one period to the next and start to notice our own patterns within it. So for instance, for me, during my period, I actually feel quite energized. So I do tend to stay home and not do too much, but it's a really good time for me to, do some creative thinking, creative writing, and coming up with some exciting new projects or content for my Instagram page. When it comes to the springtime, that's when I really like to go out and socialize, and be with my friends. And, I notice that pattern. And then with PMS, probably without fail, I always like to declutter my house at this point. I tend to be a bit more irritated, so I avoid, being around people that tend to trigger me, and, really just focus on my own healing and inner work. So when it comes to scheduling our work tasks accordingly, periods are a really good time to take a self-care day. So if you can take a vacation day, I'd recommend doing it around our period or even a few days before our period in late PMS, just to, allow ourselves that space to do whatever we want, to engage in pain management if you do have really painful periods, and really, engage in that self-care just to regroup. So that would be our period. Don't schedule too many high-level meetings at that time if you can avoid it. And then going into spring or pre-ovulation, this is when we can revisit that time management schedule that I spoke about in an earlier podcast. So reviewing our to-do list, scheduling in our tasks, doing a lot of planning and sort of forecasting for the quarter or for the year, setting goals. Wonderful time pre-ovulation for doing this. Ovulation, perfect time to have, long days of meetings, events in the evening. If you're going to go to any networking events, perfect time to do so. And then when we go into PMS, this is where when we can start to, close out projects that need to be closed out, finishing out those final tasks, even doing things like cleaning up our desk space and our workspace during PMS. Perfect for that. So those are just some ideas for how you can sync your work calendar to your menstrual cycle. If you'd like to learn more about it, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram. My handle is I'm with periods. That's the letter I, the letter M with periods. And I'd be happy to share more about this and let you know, give you some more ideas about how you can sort of work to your own body's rhythms and schedules. So menstrual cycles and periods are so much more than just reproductive health. They actually influence our mental health, our bone health, our nutrient health, as well as, our work life. So would love to hear from you all. Thank you so much for listening. Sending lots of love and talk soon. Bye.